The fact that you got the head coach and the defensive coordinator fighting with one another because Greg Williams is blaming the offense on how bad the defense is, and then they're catching the two of them pregame in this heated conversation. Everybody just assumes that they hate each other and they're screaming at one another, and that's also a storyline. Yeah. That was the most exciting thing that happened to the Jets yesterday.
Well, that discussion really wasn't anything to do with what Greg Williams said at the end of the week. That was more about what an official had said to Adam Gase before the game. I don't know exactly what that was, but it seemed Adam was a little bit perturbed by whatever he was told. And so that was not an argument for all of us to witness that had anything to do with last week. Although after the game, Adam Gase did say he was not happy with what Greg Williams said. And this is why, it's worse than you really think it is, because now you have a defensive coordinator who probably fancies himself as a head coach in some sort of goofy way, backstabbing the head coach who is the play caller and who runs the offense. And that makes the whole thing even worse. And I remember when they were hired initially, it was all about personalities. Can the personalities get together? Who was hired first? Did McCagnon hire Williams? And then they hired Gase. Did Gase want Williams? I don't know any of those answers to those questions. And those are questions that, obviously that should be asked. But when you have your defensive coordinator say what he said and how he said it, and then have his defense go out there and get torn up again for yet another week in a row, I mean, it's just absolutely brutal. Now,
but how does Greg Williams look at it, though, Boomer? Does he look at it like, all right, my defense got torn up, or does he have his point made for him because the offense got shut out?
Yeah, I know. I understand that. And I tried not to, like, there's a diss and dysfunction, and then there's diss when you're dissing somebody. And I was trying really hard. I don't want to diss Joe Flacco. He's coming off of a neck injury. He has been a Super Bowl MVP, and for about 7 or 8 years there in Baltimore, he was the man. And he was the man because Ray Lewis was the leader of the franchise. He didn't have to be the leader. He doesn't have the personality. He's like another Sleepy Joe from Delaware. It's just not going to work when you need energy. And it's not really fair to expect him to go out there and throw for 500 yards in a game when he hasn't really even practiced with these players. So I would just, it's a bad mix. And he's supposed to be the Andy Dalton on a team that was supposed to be reasonably good, that if something happened, which normally does happen to Sam Darnold, he would go in there and be able to at least move the team forward. But under the current set of circumstances, with guys coming in and out of the lineup, guys coming off of the injured list, guys going on to the injured list, lack of practice, lack of time together, all of that stuff manifests itself more on offense than it does on defense.
Yeah, and you mentioned how the Jets were lacking major energy, and this is why the Joe Flacco and the Jets is a bad mix, is because when Sam Darnold goes out, Joe Flacco experience, resume, all that trots out there, but also a complete and utter flatliner at this point of his career also is out there. This isn't like going to Ryan Fitzpatrick as your backup quarterback and him coming in and going crazy, or going to Nick Foles as your backup quarterback, and his history is as a backup at times, even though he doesn't look great all the time, or even Case Keenum coming in for Baker Mayfield, who gets benched, who's a little ball of energy running around making things happen. Joe Flacco is the opposite of all of that in his career. And yes, he's always going to be a Super Bowl champ, and we're always going to respect that. Joe Flacco in 2020 on the Jets is just impossible to watch.
It's a bad mix. It's just an awful mix. And then the other aspect to it is the shutout aspect to it. It's the sideline, what the sideline looks like. It just from a guy who's been on a team like this, I know and I understand that the guys think that they're playing hard and that they're trying. Like Avery Williamson is all over the field. Now, he obviously takes a bad penalty yesterday, but he's all over the field. He's trying to make tackles. He's trying to lead by example. He's trying to bring energy to the team. You could see that. And nobody is questioning the effort. I think that the 96 team is worse than this team simply because they spent over $80 million in free agency on that team. This team has barely been built by its general manager yet. It's still in the throes of being built, and they still have a huge question mark at quarterback because Sam cannot stay on the field. And that is a big part of a quarterback. Can you count on him to be out there every single week? The one thing that I will say that is great about Eli Manning is he never missed a game. He always was out there. So Giant fans, while at times he may have frustrated you, you knew that every Sunday that's what you were going to get. You were going to get your quarterback that was going to be the face of your franchise. And that's part of what Sam Darnold has been unable to do right now for Jet fans. And that's why we all sit here wondering, what do we have as a quarterback? What is he going to be? And when he ends up going somewhere else, if it stays the way that it is, because there's no way that the Jets are not taking Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick. And by the way, you wake up this morning, you look at Tankathon, you see who's number 1, the only winless team left. And yet another double-digit loss, this time on top of a shutout, this time to your hated rivals, the Miami Dolphins, and this time to your former quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick. It looks ugly, it looks bad. And I don't know if Christopher Johnson truly does like Adam Gase, he could put him out of his misery. He could put him out of his misery, and he can make that call today. Or if he feels like Adam Gase sold him a bill of goods a year and a half ago, he can make him sit on that sideline for the rest of the season and make his life miserable.
If you were Adam Gase, would you want to finish this thing? Because I feel like as bad as this team is, and I don't think that they're going to win a game, I don't think they're going to look good at all. But if you're Adam Gase, you're thinking otherwise. You're thinking, all right, get me Sam back, give me an opportunity to put something on film as a head coach. Maybe like last year, obviously, they had a good finish to the season. Like, give me a shot to do something so then when I get fired at the end of the year, maybe I can end up somewhere else. If he gets fired right now, what we're going to remember of him is 0-6 and getting shut out by the Dolphins, and he's not going to get touched again. It'll be toxic.
It's not that I feel bad for Adam Gase, but when he started initially in the NFL and finally got to a point where he was around a quarterback who basically changed an entire organization, Peyton Manning, he just thought that he had all the answers because of Peyton Manning's success in Denver. You know, you have to remember, Denver, Peyton Manning would walk into an organization and change everything. Hey, this is how we're practicing. This is how we're doing it. This is how I'm calling plays. This is the plays that I want to run. You know, Joe Flacco is not that guy. Joe Flacco is not going to, Dow Loggins or Adam Gase saying, these are the plays I want to run. Joe Flacco has the mindset, look, I'm your quarterback. You call the play. I'll try to make it run. It's like that's the difference between the two personalities. And Adam had the most aggressive personality, I believe, in the history of the NFL that was more into ball than any other quarterback in the history of the league. And I don't care what anybody says. Peyton Manning changed the way quarterbacks were looked at. Maybe we ran the no-huddle and Jim Kelly ran the no-huddle and we had our things and we had our intricacies of our offense. And I was very vocal with, my offense coordinators about what I wanted, what I felt comfortable with, and they knew me as a player. That's not what's going on right now. Adam Gase does not have that type of player, does not have the alpha male in the building. And he's got a young puppy in Sam Darnold that's trying to come back from injury. He's got an old dog in Joe Flacco who's just kind of flatlines. And then he's got a team that is going in and out of injuries, especially at wide receiver and running back. It's like there is no opportunity for success because of the group of players that are together. But I think they're bad just simply because there's not that many great players here, as opposed to that 96 team that was bad because they had no leadership whatsoever. This team has no leadership either, don't get me wrong. But that team had no leadership whatsoever, none. And it really starts from the head coach down. And if your head coach is not leading and not holding people accountable and not basically doing it the right way, then you have every opportunity for failure and very little opportunity for success.
It just feels like keeping him around just keeps this horrible feeling around the organization. That's why you would move on now. And not that Greg Williams is going to come in or whoever you elevate to head coach and they're going to go win.
I would fire his ass.
Yeah, if you want to do that then fine.
If I were the head coach and I do have the straight line to the owner, I'm saying, look, man, my defense coordinator can't do this to me.
Right. He's out there trashing him. It's not like that defense is any good.
I know that. I understand that. But of all the people, like I just dealt with Le'Veon Bell and got rid of him because he was all over social media. I got rid of Jamal Adams because he was all over social media. And I think Joe Douglas was in lockstep with Adam Gase in those two decisions, and rightfully so, because you don't want to have people pulling against you in the locker room. Now, all of a sudden, the team sees that the defensive coordinator, a guy who's a part of the coaching staff,
is doing the same thing.
Is doing the same goddamn thing. And I'm like, what are you doing? Who are you to do this to your head coach. Say whatever you want about Adam Gase, but this commentary and the way that it has been digested by the fan base and the media, and this is part of, working here as a coach. When things go bad, things actually get piled upon. So he says something that he believes is innocuous, but then when it's put in print, everybody around here is going to react to it, and we're all going to react to it like, you got to be kidding me. So I kind of asked Coach Cowher, like, that would never happen to you, would it? And he goes, are you kidding me? Not a chance in hell would this ever happen. There's no way one of my coaches is going public and questioning anything that I am doing. He is either loyal to me and what I'm trying to do, or he is out of the building. And I'm sure the Jet fans would much rather have Adam Gase out of the building, and I get it. I understand it. I'd get them both out of the building. Because you got
enough coaches there. You got enough coaches there to handle it. We've gone over this before.
And these guys are supposedly the greatest coaches in the world, and they can't get any worse. So who cares?
Yeah, no, really, it's true. Honestly, the who cares is right at this point.
Dude, I would be livid, man. I would be effing livid.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, but it's not like neither one of these guys has a leg to stand on. That's the thing. Like, Adam Gase can be livid, and rightfully so, but his offense is so bad. And if you look at the last couple of years, it's not just this team, because we could talk about how bad this team is. You go back to last year. You go back to his last couple of years with the Dolphins. You go back to when he was the offensive coordinator of the Bears. Ever since he didn't have Peyton Manning, I think the best he's finished with an offense, either as a head coach or an offensive coordinator, is 25th in the league. And it's usually worse than that. So, he can get mad all he wants about how his defensive coordinator thinks he sucks, but guess what? He does.
But
so it's not, I know it's a disrespect thing, but, neither one of these guys has a leg to stand on.
I don't know how mad Adam Gase is. I'm talking about how mad I would be if I were in the situation. So I don't know the relationship between the two men. I don't know if this is what Adam Gase wanted as his defensive coordinator. All I know is that every one of these coaches in the league has a reputation. And, Greg Williams wants to be a head coach again somewhere. I'm sure they all do. And that's fine. But what he did in the eyes of the people who write the stories, in the eyes of the people who read the stories, and in the perception of the people who are in that building over there, basically is done what is considered blasphemy in the NFL. The coaches have to be together, and this. I believe me, I bite my tongue. I bite my tongue because he's had success as a coach, and I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But man, when you do this and it turns into what it has turned into, you have crossed a line. You have made your embattled head coach look little. You've made your embattled head coach look like he has no control over what is happening in his building, and that is the ugliest aspect of it. That's Ben McAdoo. That's Richie Kotite. That's who was the guy that was on the Jersey Turnpike for the Giants who got nailed? What the hell was his name?
Ray Hanley.
Ray Hanley. That's what this is turning into.
Yeah, well, I also think that part of that has to fall in Adam Gase's lap. Because as you asked Bill Cowher, would this ever happen to you? And he said, absolutely not. Why did he say that? Because he commands respect, and people aren't going to F with him. And the thing that Adam Gase has created is the direct opposite of that, where a member of his coaching staff feels like publicly he can say one of those things, and because there's no respect there. So, I know that Greg Williams stepped out of line. I can't disagree with that. But he felt comfortable doing it because that's probably the way he feels. It's not, Bill Cowher answered your question in that way, not because everybody on his staff is totally respectful. He answered that question that way because he was the man. And nobody was messing with him. And everybody knew it. And he created an atmosphere and an environment where people looked up to him and trusted him. That's not what's going on here. So a lot of this stuff also is on Adam Gase, that he has authored this story that has allowed some of this stuff to happen. And they also traded away, by the way, Steve McClendon after the game as well, who, if you listen to all the beat writers, is a big leader in that locker room. And this is going to, I think Brian Costello said, this is going to sting a lot of the teammates. He was really well liked. So, they got to have to find their own motivation right now, man. All these players are going to have to find their own motivation to finish this season, because if they don't and just throw in the towel, man, I don't know how you go forward with any of them outside of the draft picks that you had last year.
You know what? They actually did Steve McClendon a favor.
Sure, I know.
He didn't ask to be traded.
Le'Veon Bell a favor, Jamal Adams a favor. Everybody who's been in this mess, they've done a favor that they've gotten rid of. Are you kidding me?
Those are two different reasons why they traded those guys. But Steve McLennan, Todd Bowles, they lost one of their defensive tackles down there to injury yesterday, and they need another defensive tackle. And Todd Bowles obviously knows Steve McLennan from his time here, so he wanted him. And hey, Joe Douglas did right. He tried to get another asset. Let's get another asset. This season's going nowhere. The more assets we can acquire, the stronger we'll become. Whatever. Just it's another way to pick another player. You got to have more shots on goal every single year, and hopefully you finally hit it. Now, the interesting thing is, and we had this little discussion yesterday on the NFL Today, but like I was saying here, for Jet fans, it really truly is becoming about Trevor Lawrence, which is really unfortunate for both Sam Darnold, and I think the ship has sailed on Adam Gase, so it's not even unfortunate anymore. That's a done deal. But there has to be a new coach that comes in here that can be the best coach for the development of yet another young quarterback, and that would be Trevor Lawrence if things stay the way they are. And then the question comes down to, who is that coach?
Well, just hire Dabo Swinney and bring him here.
Yeah, but
give whatever he wants. I know that will never work. I know. I'm just joking. There's no way. It would be the dumbest thing in the world for him to go from Clemson to the Jets. I mean, my God.
And I know there's the story that Trevor Lawrence would want to stay for another year in college, and he can, and maybe he makes that decision. I don't believe he will. I believe that he will definitely come out. He will be enticed to come here to New York. In fact, the Jets do have the number 1 overall pick. And, there'll be all that speculation. And will Archie Manning talk to his dad? What will Rex Ryan tell Dabo Swinney and all this other crap? At the end of the day, you are the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, which is a huge, huge honor for anybody who's good enough to get to that point. And, Joe Burrow went to Cincinnati last year. Could there have been a worse organization or a worse team than Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean the Jets are right there.
Yeah, I know. We focus on the Jets and all that other stuff.
No, but they're really right there.
Well, right now they are.
Well, but here's so Cincinnati, and I know that the Jets had the 2 AFC title game appearances, but Cincinnati, they had won some divisions there. They couldn't do anything in the playoffs, but they made the playoffs for a number of years.
It's one of the cheapest teams in the league.
They are cheap, but they have no choice but to pay Joe Burrow what they're going to pay him. There's no way that they're going to shortchange the guy. And the NFL is a salary cap. He's locked into. If he's good, he's going to be locked into a lot of money.
And you remember Carson Palmer? What was he saying to us last year?
Yeah, right. I know.
He's not going to go there. He's not going to go there. He's not going to go there. Now
I know, but you were on the opposite side of that the whole time, and you said that he was going to go there. So I don't know what the point is.
Well, but the point is that there's always going to be speculation about a guy not going to a particular team because of what John Elway and Eli Manning were able to pull off. There's only 2 guys in history that were able to do that.
Yeah,
so it doesn't normally happen, and I know that
Joe Burrow didn't have an opportunity to go back to school. That's the other thing.
Well, and Joe Burrow was from Ohio, and he's from an area, Athens, Ohio, that is bingo territory essentially. But I would also just say that there's going to be all this speculation around Trevor Lawrence and that decision because it's the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, very rarely is there a team that ends up there where it's like, oh, man, that first choice overall got lucky. Usually it's the Browns, a bad team. Obviously, the Bengals have been there before. Those top teams, it's usually a bad team. There's a few times where, whether it was the Colts ended up there, of course, a couple of times. But it's usually a bad team. And we have this conversation every single year. But you could also look at it like, if Trevor Lawrence gets the coach that he needs and he's in New York and he's that guy that resurrects the Jets and he's the modern-day Joe Namath with how cool he looks and the long hair and everything else, that's a selling point too, quite frankly. So it really comes down to, as we mentioned before, what coach is hired with Trevor Lawrence. And that decision needs to be made with that in mind, that we need to bring in the guy that Trevor Lawrence, and I know he's never played a game in the NFL, but they need to hire the guy that Trevor Lawrence is going to be excited playing for. And that has to be the focus.
Well, I will say that almost every scout out there will tell you that he's a can't-miss player, that he's on the level of Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford. Andrew Luck proved to be that can't-miss player. Now the question is, can this kid prove to be that can't-miss player? And I would tell you, even if you do go to a a bad team and a bad franchise doesn't mean you can't, if you are good enough, show that you belong in the NFL. And that's exactly what Joe Burrow is doing his rookie year. You know, he got the crap beat out of him a week ago in Buffalo, and then yesterday, unfortunately, they lose the game. He throws a late interception because the safety's reading his eyes, and he's a rookie. And, you know, and the other guys on the other side are pretty damn good now. And he made a mistake. But, you know, he bounced back. He had a really good game against a very good defense. You know, the other thing, too, that really bothered me, and I think I said it yesterday, either at halftime of the Jet game, was just looking at the Jets sideline. And we talk about, because of the limited number of fans in the stadium, because of, in some situations, no fans in the stadium, every team has got to bring its own energy somehow, some way. And like I said, Avery Williamson, I think, tries to do that. But he can't do it by himself. There is nobody on offense. I mean, nobody that shows any sort of, like, I think they think they're fighting, but I just don't see any sort of sideline energy around this team at all.
Oh, and compare that to the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins on defense all day, and then once they sniffed that shutout, they were flying around the entire game. I mean, big tackles, you know, high fives, going nuts. I mean, they were just the entire game for 4 quarters. That Dolphins defense was doing exactly what you want to see the Jets do. And they wanted that shutout desperately, and they got it. As bad as it gets. And then you have Tua coming in the game, which is just like, I mean, that's embarrassing for the Jets. I mean, they finally felt comfortable. Yeah, really. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. Got plenty more to get to, including that giant win and Jerry Recco update. I don't think he did very well with those 10 picks. I was looking back on it. Yeah. It was like 2-8 or something. Rough. 1-9 maybe.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.